Yeah, I know, but I like looking at you too.
Don't look at the camera. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Hello and welcome to Life in the Bitter Truth. This is the podcast where we seek to understand the deeper, sometimes painful aspects of life and what it all means to us. I'm Vittorio.
And I'm Alex.
Can we do this again?
Thank you. If we don't do this every single episode, I'm going to be pissed.
We do it every episode. Do it one more time. There we go.
I just need it reflected in the comments, okay? I need lots of clapping hands.
No, affirmations?
Yeah.
Affirmations.
For me.
I'm big on affirmations, so it's
For
good.
me, though.
For you only?
Specifically.
Okay.
Just kidding.
Very good. So what's been going? Like, I don't know why we're laughing so much.
I don't know.
Yeah. So what's been going on with you?
With me, how about we talk about what's been going on with you first?
First of all,
you always ask me
because there's people asking, well, how come the studio's white? Well, again, I painted, and God damn it, I haven't gotten around to doing
anything else.
I've been very busy.
It's okay.
Doing shit. So
tell us. What have you been up to?
No, just with life. Life just keeps me very busy. Got lots to do. I've got stuff I'm doing here, doing there. Shit I'm doing.
Yeah.
Same. So again, I will get the
everything else up soon.
I'll get it going. I just haven't got around to it. But this is Life in the Bitter Truth. So you remember
we have fun here.
That's right. We do. We have fun.
And what are you drinking? What watch are you wearing?
I am drinking Michner's Rye. Mm-hmm. Delicious.
Can I try it?
You can try it. It's good.
I tried your drink last episode. Let's see.
Did you?
This is a taste.
What do we have? What was I drinking?
Oh, a Manhattan.
Oh, a Manhattan. Okay, yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna do ASMR though. Okay.
Okay. Okay, go ahead.
Shh. Everyone, today I'm going to be trying my dad's drink. It's Michner's
Bourbon.
Rye.
It's actually not a bourbon, it's a rye.
It's Michner's Rye.
Okay.
Shh.
Okay, let's go. Come on. Fucking what a waste of time. Delicious. Women love ryes, by the way.
It tastes like medicine.
Women love ryes. So I don't know what to say. And
it was all right.
I am wearing my glass shoot. Beautiful watch.
Mm-hmm.
So.
And I am not wearing any jewelry today.
Yeah.
Just earrings and my little necklace. I can't. Next episode, we should do watch talk.
Yeah.
We should have like a watch segment,
yeah.
you know?
I mean, I've been giving watches away to my children, to my son,
Yes.
I've given one to you, given one to your sister, but yes. I'm left with 3 now. 3 total watches. I've got a dress watch, which is my beautiful Globemaster.
Right, that you wore last episode, I think.
Did I? Okay. And this is my glass shoot. Mm-hmm. Beautiful watch. Mm-hmm. Love this watch.
And what's the next one?
And then I've got a Chopard.
Yeah. That's staying in the family for sure.
Maybe. I mean, I'm in a state of liquidation.
You're not trying to get rid of it, so we're trying to buy that watch or keep it in the family somehow.
I'm in a state of liquidation. Got to consolidate. As you get older, you want to consolidate. You want to, tighten up.
Yeah, I don't have too many watches. Most of my jewelry are all heirloom anyway. So, but I'm not wearing anything today. Sorry.
Your brother might get mad if I already have to give you one of the 3. So.
Oh my God, God forbid. God forbid. Well, we might be talking a little bit about things.
That's harsh.
I mean,
what's the topic point?
The topic is...
I feel a little bit of stress right now.
You should. Okay. You should feel stress. You've got some interesting children, but today we're going to be talking about what happens after death, what happens to our things, how does our family specifically deal with death, how does my mom's family deal with it,
sure.
And what are some things that we have experienced in that process.
Okay, so how do we even start this topic point?
Well, first by me putting my phone on airplane mode.
Okay.
How we start? Gosh, I think an important question to kind of help us open up is, how does our family maintain a relationship with the dead? Do we have a relationship with the dead in our family?
Good question.
And that word maintain is important because obviously for the people that do have relationships with the dead, it is a maintenance thing. It's something you have to continuously tend to.
Yeah, it's tough. That's a good question. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I know that, so over the last 5 years, I'd probably say it's been 5 years. It's just over 5 years. We've lost my father, who passed away at 94. I lost my aunt. These were people from my time. My father was what I considered a very good father, caring, loving, all those good things, right? As you get older, you find those disconnects with your parents, and that sometimes can create a little bit of tension or distance. But in the end, you look back at the reflection of their lives. 94 years old is a long life, and then you got
God, put a pillow over my head, please.
Yeah, no, a lot of people feel that. Your grandma feels that way,
Yeah.
She's going, take me now, but we want. I mean, from my mother's perspective, or from us, me and my two siblings, especially my mother, I should say my sister and I. My mother is the cat's meow. She's just very fun. So we want her to be around for
forever.
100 years, right? So, and then just recently, over the last 2 years, I think it's been, we lost my aunt, and we grew up with my aunt, and
another freaking cat's meow.
Yeah, just crazy lady, just loving, just very direct, and just very smart, and just those have been tough transitions. And for my side of the family,
right?
And then maybe 5 years ago, something like that.
About 6 years ago,
you lost your grandma.
Yeah, my mom's mom.
Yeah, and then just recently, I think there was a loss.
Yeah, just recently we lost my grandpa's sister, who we were very close to in Texas.
True. That's true. Yeah.
And that was pretty tough because my mom and I were especially close to her and would call her often. And what
was the name?
Socorro.
So, I actually, I spent some time with her in her home in El Paso. That's right. I remember her.
And she always asked for you. Yeah. Of course, everyone loves my dad on my mom's side still to this day.
I'm the cat's meow.
Oh, my God. And, I think just based on these deaths that we've experienced.
Yeah. And so someone close to me just recently lost their father, and, not necessarily close to them, but it was an experience that, again, gives you a reflection to your losses, and you see what they go through, and you can compare it to how you go through. So loss is, part of life, but yeah, it's been tough. It's been a tough several years, last few years. It's been, our generation is getting older.
For sure.
And to ask, I guess probably, how do we deal with it? I mean, you go to funerals after funerals after funerals. I mean, it's tough. It's a tough situation to lose somebody you care about. But when they're ailing or there's medical problems, you kind of look at it from the perspective of, you don't want them suffering, right?
And so we even think about our pets too. My brother and my sister-in-law just recently lost their little kitty of 15 years old.
Which was bizarre because I was just there in Vegas, and I was playing with the cat with a strobe light, not strobe light, with a little laser light, and the cat was just all active and stuff, and just playful and stuff. And then unfortunately, the cat was 17 years old, and I know that Gianni was, he actually shared some thoughts, and he's like, sad and whatever, but the cat lived a good life, and then his girlfriend, she's fantastic, and it's just she's been hurt. I mean, she's hurt by the loss of somebody that, or the pet that she's been so close to for so many years, and it's tough.
And she asked me, she said, look, like, who am I to be so selfish to want to keep pushing her another 30 days, another 60 days, whatever. And she's like, I can't do that. She's already given me so much of herself as my pet. I can't take from her more.
It was kind of funny. I was having a conversation with her. I think it was yesterday, and I was talking to her, asking her a bunch of stuff because I'm helping them with some stuff, and I was talking to her, and she seemed distant, and she seemed off from an earlier conversation I had in that morning, right? And so I go, "Is everything okay?" And then it clicked on me. I go, "Oh shit." How are you feeling? And what's going on with Tabby?
Yeah.
And so she broke down on the phone. And I thought, oh my God, so that's sort of lesson. Sometimes you forget that people can get very attached to their pets and people, of course. So it was tough. It's been
It's been heavy, and even
a lot of loss in the last several years.
Yeah, and last week Jacob and I celebrated the anniversary of his grandmother's passing. His German
celebrated. Interesting.
Yeah,
you celebrate. So that goes back to your question: how do people?
How did we celebrate her?
The death and
the way that we celebrate Amma is, or Oma, obviously is grandma in German, but they've always called her Amma. Is by reading, the story, the Dr. Seuss book that she would always read Jacob. Every time Jacob washes his hands, he says that he thinks about his grandma because she would always help him wash his hands as a little kid. Little things like that, I think, is how we celebrate our people. I mean, she passed on 4/20, so it's an interesting day.
4/20.
It's an interesting day to, because it's just, he just said, it's just a weird day of emotions, But yeah, I think that's kind of how we've done it since being together. But I recently went to my grandfather's house in Montebello just to see him and visit him. And
Pete,
yeah,
how's old Pete doing?
He's doing okay. He was honestly shocked to see me because I've been. Since my grandmother's passing, it's been difficult to come around, and that's just mourning, honestly. And when you have a family that has since become so divided since
the matriarch's
passing, it's when you realize, oh my God, my grandmother was the glue to our family, and she held everyone accountable, which is why everyone showed up. Because if someone wasn't at the party, she would call you and be like, when are you coming and what are you bringing? Right?
Yeah, I remember her fondly. I mean, when your grandma, I should say, when I heard she was in hospice and she was at that last tail end. I mean, I drove out to spend some time with her.
Yeah.
I had I have a long relationship with her and with your mom's side of the family for years and years and years. So it was the most incredible, respectful thing to do was to show. A connection and express that connection. I your grandma and I always had a very good relationship, and she would always, it was very fun. Great story about people that have passed and the connections you have with her. Your grandma and I have kind of had a dual kind of relationship in the sense that she was very warm to me. Right. So your grandma was very warm to me, right? And so when I say that is like, she spent that Christmas, she wanted to give me something, a gift, whatever. And back then, this is like the late 80s, early 90s, I think it was.
Those were the days.
And mobile phones were very expensive. And so, she spent $1,000 on me.
On what?
On a mobile phone.
Oh.
It was very comical, and so, her and I had a very good, close relationship. I think only one time that I ever got some flack from your grandma was when we were getting married. We had decided to get married in Lake Tahoe. And she went ballistic.
She did not like that, I heard.
No, because she wanted to invite every goddamn person on the planet to this wedding. And it's like, oh, I ain't paying for that kind of shit. So, yeah, you do what you want to do. I'm not involved, so.
Yeah.
And so her and I always had a very close relationship. So that's me and your grandma. So
it was great. I'll say when you did show up, when I called you and said that grandma, they're not giving her much time. Our entire family came through. You came through. Your sister, my tia Ivy, came through. Grandma came through to go and sit with her, and it was. Gosh, as a child of divorce, that our childhood was difficult because of the divorce and always having that separation between the families. To deal with this weight of, oh my gosh, my grandma, one of my queens, is going to pass away soon, and me not having dealt with death in that way yet. To have both of my families there to kind of honor her and pay respects to her. That was so helpful at the time, and I didn't realize it until after.
Funerals are interesting when it comes to the folks that pass in our existence. I mean, your grandmother had a more elaborate. There was a more detail to it. I think she had, was it an open casket? Is that a rule?
It was open, yeah. Our family is traditional in that way, where we do the open casket, and she chose her casket, she chose her flowers, she had a lot of requests and had been working towards paying her funeral off throughout the years. It was a shock to me. This was all really new to me when my mom had told, I said, well, where's she going to go? And my mom had said, no, they already have a place. Yeah. They already have been paying for this spot. And, there's even an extra, and even learning about the funeral industry and how the whole process is. And
yeah. I mean, I was, so going to your grandma's funeral was, there was a casket, all the whole thing. So, those things can be very uncomfortable for people. So the reactions to it and whatnot. I sat in the back. I went with my sister, and I said hello to the family, your aunts and your uncles and that kind of stuff, and your grandfather. And I, said hello. But then I stepped back. It wasn't my place to be anywhere near the family and stuff. So I sat back, went, did the whole ceremony. It was kind of funny when my father passed away. It was much more. It was I guess it was smaller.
More intimate.
And, it was kind of funny. When my father passed away, by the way, your grandfather would probably still be alive today.
Oh, for sure.
Had he not tripped over that carpet and driving, of course, in that F-150 truck that he drove. But he tripped over a carpet and hit his head, and that's how he passed away. But he'd still be alive today with outside of that, and that would have put him at close to 98, 90. No, that was 94. That would have been 3 years, but about 96.
Yeah.
His brother is still alive, and he's probably hovering around 98.
Yeah. 98. Yeah.
So it's very fascinating.
God, the people in our family live a long time.
So with my father passing, it was the responsibility of my sister and I to deal with all of the arrangements, and we're fairly pragmatic in the sense of we know the industry in the sense of we're skeptical, right?
For sure.
Everyone's trying to they're trying to be very respectful, but they're looking for every dime they can squeeze out of you, So we had a very concise approach to our process, and we did all the things that we did, and we went to go look at the site and all that kind of stuff, and it was tough. I mean, that part was fairly unemotional, and you would think
I hate that.
It was very unemotional.
Yeah, it always is.
For me, it was. For her, it was, right?
It always is. And I went with my mom to the cemetery that my grandma is buried at, and I went with her to the meetings and the whole process, and it feels so transactional and weird.
It is extremely transactional.
And it takes so long, and we're over here talking about, okay, so this is going to cost $10,000. This is you guys, before we can put her in the ground, you have to finish paying off the plot.
Yeah.
And it's just like all these things. And I'm like, God, I told my mom, are you even able to mourn right now? And she's like, no, I have to deal with this first. There's
a mechanical approach to everything, and then there's a time to mourn after the fact. So as an example, your grandma was in the hospital or hospice care, whatever it was. My father, when I got to the hospital, my sister had already arrived, and we had already called my brother, and we're all coming from different areas. My sister and I are closer, but we had got there. I was able to say goodbye to him, and he was, at some level, at least you want to think that he's coherent or an ability, but he was all heavily hydrated,
of course,
dehydrated,
sedated.
Dehydrated, and it's just it was time. So it was just you say what you say. Okay, it's okay. It's time. It's whatever, but it's tough to connect it. It's a lot of us may not want to think about it on that level of losing a parent. I mean, I think my father's passing was we knew it was going to happen because he was 94 years old, but he's so resonant that he's been around forever. He does things, he's very active and stuff like that. But it also is this level of closeness with one parent versus another parent. It's interesting dichotomy about that stuff, about being close to one or another. And
it's interesting because my mom, on the other hand, we grew up surrounded by our grandparents on both sides, but especially on my mom's side, when our definition of having fun or getting out of the house was going to see my grandparents. And, of course, if I could go back, I would do anything to go back to those times. But
what is it? Astroburger, not American
Astroburgers. You knew it immediately. Yeah. Right. The amount, every time I had to get onion rings and zucchini fries for my grandma from Astroburger in East LA is just, yeah.
Where my father was like, oh, I can't have any wine because I'm taking medication and stuff like that. It's very funny how
everyone has their own quirks.
When we get older, or when they got older, they took certain positions of how they want to do with things and stuff.
And my grandma just wanted to have fun. She was just having fun. And my mom has always been extremely close to both of them. And I'll say that when my grandma passed away, it most definitely changed my mom for sure. Sure. I feel that she has evolved into, a different type of person. And I'm still trying to figure out kind of what that is or how that manifests. But gosh, it was devastating for my mom.
Yeah. So you guys go to the funeral, but the cemetery, and you guys do whatever it is you do during whatever it is you guys do. I mean, you'll have to describe it for me, Day of the Dead or whatever the heck it is called and stuff, where truthfully, I think I went to my maternal grandmother's
grave.
I think one time over all those years, and that was a tough loss because I grew up with her.
Oh yeah,
and she was just a fantastic woman.
There was one time I visited her grave with grandma.
Yeah, and so and for me, I can guarantee you, my brother never has gone. My sister, I can't remember. I don't know. Remember? I mean, she could probably, she would probably say yes, she did or didn't. I don't know that. I think I went once and never been back. And so we talk about going to the graveyard. You've gone fairly routinely
throughout the years,
and I haven't gone since my father's passed. I don't. Maybe it's deliberate. Maybe there's a disconnect.
Maybe it feels. For some people, it feels
unreal?
like
I don't know.
I don't know. It's weird. And my position on visiting the cemetery has changed in the recent, I would say, 2 years because it's tough. It's tough to go back. And, I think I did it for many years, every single week for my mom because I knew it helped her. And so I kind of pushed through, even if it made me uncomfortable, even if it made me feel sad.
Sure.
And at that time, that's when I had visited my great grandmother's grave site and I went with grandma and, picked flowers and everything like that. And grandma told me, we don't do this. We don't really do, we don't go and talk to the ground because she's gone. She's not here anymore. Yeah. And that was hard for me to take because I was in the position of, oh no, they are still here. Right. Like I've been trained to think that like going to the cemetery is doing something for me, or it's a direct connection to my person that I've lost. But, it was interesting because, going with grandma, I think was special because she hadn't done it in a long time. Right. And this was her mother.
Right.
It was also interesting because my great grandmother had a very traditional name. And so I'm like, Grandma, how do we spell her name? Like, please give me like the whole thing. Right. Yeah. And to find the stone in all the rows of stones was a mission. And when I finally did, I felt like such a freaking champion.
What's interesting about the whole funeral aspect of it, so my father was cremated and so was my aunt. My mother wants to be cremated when she reaches that stage. And it's funny. I mean, some people want to be cremated, some people don't. It's really interesting which approach they take and stuff.
Grandma
like that.
wants to be cremated.
Oh yeah, she wants to be. She wants to be sprinkled in the
ocean.
In the ocean, it's kind of funny. I always joke with her all the time. We'll flush her down the toilet, Mom. You'll get to the ocean eventually, right?
Oh my gosh!
And it's so always a running joke because that's how we. That's how
you guys are. We wouldn't say that in my mom's family.
Yeah, it's very open and comical in that relationship. But my mom. Is healthy, very healthy, and our goal is to have her. Our wish, our dream is that she lives on for another 20 years. Right, that would put her at 100 and 3. So hopefully, God willing, she does that, because she is just a firecracker of a person, and passionate about her 3 children.
And her grandchildren too.
And her grandchildren. I mean, you cannot say anything negative about it, and she would go to war if you did. So
for sure,
those connections are very different than, let's say, maybe the connection I had with my own father, right? Mortality. So when your father passes, I'll never forget this. As I was a little kid, I walked into my father's room when he got the notification that his father passed. And
was this in Peru, or where was it?
My grandfather was in Peru, but we were in the valley living, and he was on the side of the bed talking to his brother, and his father had passed, and his father, of course, big stature of an individual, carried a lot of weight in that sense of filling a room and stuff like that, and just that was I remember that, but I've gone to many funerals over the years, right? You go as a respect to people you care for or you're connected with, and you go to these funerals and stuff, but it doesn't hit you the same way until you go to your own. And even when I went to my father's, we went to my father's funeral, and it was funny. The priest, the Catholic priest, asked me. I don't know why I got assigned to talk to the priest in this, this trio.
You should have had nuns there.
This trio of
your favorite
of the 3 of us trying to organize my father's, movement to the next part of his.
A devout Catholic would watch the Mass in the Vatican every day.
And so, I'm the Jew, and I'm talking to the Catholic priest, and the Catholic priest is talking to me about, give me some stories, some background, whatever. He was actually quite funny. Your mom and your stepfather was there, and that's very kind and stuff like that. So it was interesting. I was sharing with some stories with the priest, and he did a good job and all that good stuff, and so, and but I don't think I don't see a need or a reason to go to a cemetery. I don't know. It's just, it seems to me it's a little, it's not creepy. It's just.
I mean, what do you think about the ashes on the mantle then?
I wouldn't.
Grandma's not going to be on our mantle?
Hell no. I'm gonna flush that old bird down the toilet, and she's going to reach the ocean eventually or whatever. No, I mean, obviously I joke about that, but it's not true. I mean, no, I won't put her ashes on the mantle. No. She doesn't want that. That's creepy for her too.
Yeah, so. She wouldn't like that. No. I mean, it's difficult. I feel like a lot of people have different comfort levels.
See, it's funny. You talked about, so cleaning up their belongings and stuff, and it's like, that's a tough situation.
What do we do with their things?
It's funny. My father, he had an apartment, and we came in there, the 3 of us, my sister and my brother, and my cousin, who's very close to us. We grew up with all of our cousins, and she, she lives here closely, and she rolled up her sleeves and was in there, and and that's how you do that. That's how family supports each other. You work through and help and that kind of stuff. And we took care of that apartment within 3 hours, 3 or 4 hours. And it's tough. You live a life, long life in my father's case, and you build this existence of who you were, and you pass. And what's left after that? Memories. And so we were looking at all kinds of things that he had and stuff, and I took a couple pieces here and there that were probably memorable, but a lot of other stuff I didn't want. I don't have the room or the space or the headspace for that kind of stuff. Your aunt took some stuff, your uncle took some stuff, but beyond that, there was a lot of stuff that we just let go. And then for us, the 3 of us, to clear his estate, it got down to brass tacks. We had to do the work to get through that stuff, and there's assets and very little liability when you're that old, but there's assets you have to clear, and so we organized all that. We worked very closely to get the 3 of us to clear his estate,
and there was no fighting with you guys.
Money's not,
which is different than in my mom's side of the family. It was very contentious when my grandma passed away, and my grandpa was like, guys, I'm still here.
No, I mean, for my brother and my sister, we are all very well through our through life, and we all have accomplished, so we don't need to piddly complain about I want this or that. No, we don't. It's money. Money comes and goes. So we don't fight about money. So we organized in a way where I was assigned certain responsibilities, and my sister was assigned certain responsibilities. My brother was assigned certain responsibilities, and we cleared it up, and we made. We took care of transactions and we put it into a primary account. And then when it was all done, I think it was like 3 or 4, 6 months back, 6 months later, we all met for dinner. We got caught up. We had a few drinks. We were laughing about our own kids. I mean, my brother and I have kids, and we were laughing about it. We were talking about it. We noticed some of our kids on social media doing funky things, and we were just talking about that kind of stuff. And we talk about our partners or our spouses or whatever it was. It was good time just to kind of
connect,
decompress, and talk about stuff. And we did talk about my father and stuff and all that good stuff. And then
was Grandma there or
no? No. It was just the three of us. My mom had nothing to do with my father's estate at that point. So,
which is weird because the other day when we were talking about that, I mentioned to Grandma, "Well, Grandma, you should have gotten everything." She's like, "Why? I was just his wife. He had children too, know." Yeah. And I thought that was interesting. Grandma has never been a selfish person like that. She's very generous, and so
money or resources are aplenty, and they didn't have. There's no conflict there. You talk about your family, and I'll certainly let you convey that. But for us, we had a great dinner. We talked, and then my sister, who was assigned with the accounting side of it. She took care of business. She basically explained it all to us, and she just handed everybody a check, and that was that.
Yeah,
that was pretty simple. We all said, "Okay, great, boom, boom," and then we talked about a little bit more, and then we enjoyed a couple more drinks, and we had food, and life went on.
Yeah. Oh gosh, it's
your side. I don't know what You talk about fighting about whatever. I mean, I think when my grandmother died, just to chime in real quick, when my grandmother. My maternal grandmother died. I remember her many, many times saying to me, "You take this, you take this." It was
she wanted you to get her rabbit foot.
No, it was a grandfather clock.
Oh,
so
you're like, "Thanks, Grandma."
I think that my aesthetic probably wouldn't be good for a grandfather clock, but
she wanted you.
That's what she wanted me to have, and she wanted me to have a few other things and stuff. But by the time life at that time, I don't know how old I was. I know I had little kids. You guys were all little.
Yeah.
I couldn't get there enough, and I think my cousin, we're all very close, my cousins, and she grabbed it. She grabbed it. And so, you know what? Oh, man, I wanted that. It was mine, bring it back to me.
Grandma gave it to me.
You know what? It's okay. Whatever it is, what it is. We as a family don't fight about those kinds of things. But I did get some sterling silver cocktail
stirs.
Picks.
Oh,
what is it? Toothpicks or whatever it was. Yeah, so
that's cool.
I do have them. I still have them.
Cool.
And I've got a lot of her Corningware that's probably 30, 40, 50 years old and stuff like that. So
we still use it every day.
Yeah, in fact, I use it,
Passover.
Passover. So, these are the kinds of simple things that you can reflect. But I even have a back scratcher. That is your great grandmother.
Oh, really? That's funny.
Yeah, I remember that. So again, we didn't fight about. We don't fight about money and that kind of stuff. But you had mentioned your mother's siblings and stuff.
And my mom is a pacifist, and in every way. She's really just like, look, I'm going to let them bicker. I'm going to let them fight over this and that. My mom had shared with me, look, I bought Grandma a lot of jewelry. And, it would be my preference to get that back.
Sure.
So I can wear it, in her honor. And, my mom is the youngest of 7 children. And so, she's got 2 sisters, many brothers, and everyone wants a piece of something. And my grandfather is still here. Thanks be to God. He's going to be 93 next month.
That's good.
And so... Grandpa has told me, look, I want you to have this ring, where, and he would say, where is the first ring that I gave your grandma? And my mom's like, why? And he's like, I want her to have it.
Yeah.
And my mom's like, well, Rosa has it, and Grandpa's like, well, I want Alex to have it.
Yeah.
And my mom's like, Dad, but he's like, well,
that's a war.
I can't. Yeah, it would be. Yeah. It would be such a problem. And when my grandma passed away, everyone got a little something. Everyone started taking, and I'm like, what the hell? Like, what's going on here? It just felt like, it did feel like a war almost. And I told my mom, well, I was her closest granddaughter. So what the hell, what about me? Who was there at her deathbed and the years prior taking care of her?
It can be very disorganized if you've got that infighting and everybody wants a piece of the action or whatever.
And then all the people come from the woodworks all of a sudden. And I'm like, where the hell have you been? Yeah. You know, my grandma suffered from heart disease, diabetes, and was extremely overweight and sick. Yeah. And, you know, my mom was right there, you know, for my whole life. Yeah. My mom has been a great daughter to her parents, and, you know, she just got kind of the short end of the stick in that way. Yeah. But that's just kind of how it goes.
So as we look at generational, right? So, you know, my mom is 83, something like that. Yeah. Good health. And so again, we wish her another 20 years, if not longer. Of course, that would put her at 183 or whatever. 103. But you know what? Why not? It could happen.
And it's funny, I asked her, I'm like, Grandma, and this is what I had asked her sister before she passed. I asked her, Abuela, like, what am I going to do without you? And Abuela Nancy, which is my grandmother's sister, is like, what do you mean? Like, you're going to be perfectly fine, if not better without me. And I'm like, oh my God, don't say that. You know, just coming from like a little lady that's like half my size telling me like, you need to just, you need to be strong and stop crying about it.
Again, our family is extremely, you know, pragmatic about life and everything else. And there's a cycle to life, and, you know, you're born, you live, and you're dead. You know, you move on with life, you know. So I think we all come from that perspective, you know. So I think about my own mortality, you know, and, you know, it's like, okay, you plan for the next phase of your existence, you know, after work, and, you know what, I'm not doing that. I mean, I'm still very healthy and I'm working. I'm doing my shit, right? But if you think about it, right, so you want to live a good long life after work, and you want to enjoy a little bit of life, but you do plan for the eventuality of passing. So what does that look like to somebody like who's, you know, with, you know, late 50s like me? You know, you can't talk to your brother about that kind of stuff because it's like, oh, you're going to be here forever, you know?
I can.
You know? And your sister might be a little bit more indifferent because she's just way too young. Her life is more focused on college or, you know, her next step in life and stuff. And so
it's a tough conversation to have with my brother, I'll say. And looking into the future, I presume it might be tough for us as a family, as a family or siblings, you know, because, you know, my brother will say, oh my God, please watch out for Dad. You know, Dad's getting old and I'm scared. And I'm like, I'm pretty sure Dad's okay. Like you know, and it's, you know, I feel like I might have, as much as I might be just absolutely devastated by these inevitable truths, you know, I feel like unfortunately my siblings might struggle even more than me.
You know, it's
just because it's just so profound. You know,
it's part of life. Like I said, your sister is still evolving into the young woman she's becoming, but you know, her transition is developing. You're also
she's also 10 years younger than us as well.
So from the perspective of, you know, my job as a father with whatever resources I have that will be left. I mean, the objective is, right, you
spend it all.
You build a life and you spend it, right?
Spend it all,
and
please.
Whatever's left over, whether it's real estate or otherwise, you know, you guys have to deal with it, right?
Yeah.
So you want to be smart about it so that there isn't that propensity to fight about assets and stuff as a lingering situation. So my goal is that you guys don't do that kind of nonsense. And you know, there's 3 of you. You guys split it. You know, 33.33% to each of you, you know, but you build a foundation where you put a trust in place, and you guys, you know, have to adhere to it because there's no other way around it. But then you have to protect your youngest one, where, you know, if I were to pass tomorrow, I wouldn't want her to touch that thing for, you know, for another 10, 15 years.
Of course,
you know?
I feel like even us as well.
Exactly. So, I mean, I was kind of funny. I was joking around when I talk about, you know, wills and trust and stuff. I said, I wouldn't want my kids to get anything from me until they turn 35, right?
Or more.
So it gives them a little bit of maturity and whatever. But again,
Johnny's like, what? What do you mean?
Yeah, exactly. So, but it's kind of funny. So I look at my own things, and I've over the last few years, I've kind of given some things away. Not because nothing wrong with me, but I mean, it's just, I think that it's a warmth that I'm trying to pass on. So I know that I gave your brother, something that was, something cherishable to me, which was a watch, and I gave your stepbrother a watch. And these are things that I always anticipated doing.
Right.
And why wait? Let them enjoy it. They're all young adults and young people that can enjoy it. So why not do that? Those kinds of things. So, as you get older, you kind of feel that way. It's interesting. I don't think about death at all. I don't think about it. I mean, actually, for planning purposes, I have this perspective. I'm going to live to 95 years old.
God willing.
That's the cap, right? All my planning is at 95. After 95,
I'm fucked.
I'm poor. There's not a penny left, with the exception of what comes in, right? And it's kind of funny. I'll be in the corner somewhere in a wheelchair,
God,
because I'm 95 years old. But
yeah.
It's like, you kind of think about it that way, but you don't worry about it because, for me, my perspective is I'm going to have a good time in retirement. I want to have a little bit of fun,
For sure.
You work all your entire life, you raise kids, and
And it's interesting, when Jacob and I have conversations about the future and marriage and children and all this stuff, it's something that I heard something. I don't know if it was a video or a conversation, but it was basically someone was saying that you want to find the right person that you'll be able to handle the death of a parent with,
Sure.
And I know Jacob has a special affection towards you, and I've asked him, we're gonna take care of my dad, right? Like we're gonna take care of Evie, we're gonna take care of your mom, like we're gonna figure that out, And it's hard when his mother, for example, doesn't have a partner, so you get nervous, and he's like, I don't want my mom to be alone. I want her to be taken care of. And it's these things that we think about as children. I'm very thankful to say that my stepfather has been there for my mom and in health and in sickness and all these things. And very confident that they'll be able to keep each other going in the future.
It's important. It's like, as we get older, no one wants to be alone, and we want to connect with someone that can accept us for who we are, and all those idiosyncrasies that we all have and stuff. Whatever, most of us that are past 50 we're set in stone. We're not going to deviate too much from who we are as individuals, right? But I think I consider myself a good person. I care about people. I may have a viewpoint that might be tough for some people to absorb, but in the end, I still care about the human condition and what happens in our world. And I try to live a life that's clean and caring. I try to raise my kids that way, the same way. So I think that and I think I learned that perspective from my mother. My mother is a good person, but she's no bullshit. She'll fucking tell you exactly how she feels. And she thinks if you're a fucking asshole, you're an asshole. And she'll say it to you.
Yeah, like the Cuban side of our family is very direct. And that's something that I've realized being around, my partner's family, being around my mother's side of the family, where there's other families that really beat around the bush and are passive aggressive and don't know how to deal with conflict. Whereas we don't have conflict on the Cuban side. We don't.
I mean, I'll tell you something. So, from a sibling perspective, my brother, my sister, we don't argue about anything. We don't get into our business. My sister and I happen to be a little closer because in proximity we're closer, in age, and in distance, right? But we are on the phone at least 1 or 2 times a week. We talk about stuff and we share, we talk about stuff. So I just talked to her about some changes in the banking system just because it impacts her, right? But we talked about that, and I said, I've got some inroads if you need some help, right? Because we're always very supportive of each other, and we spend time. We'll go out to get dinner or drinks, and just her and I talk. It's just her and I talk, and we've always been very close. So the things that I've always imparted on you and your brother and your sister is when I'm dead and gone, it's only the 3 of you. and you guys have to stay connected, stop the bullshit bickering about stupid stuff, and stay connected.
We bicker every time.
But it's that situation where there's different personalities.
Yeah.
You might be more sensitive, or Victoria might be more disconnected because of her age, and Gianni might be more flighty because of what he might be feeling or thinking at the time, or he might be feeling this or whatever, or whatever. It doesn't make a difference. You guys have to always stay connected, because when you guys are alone, away from parents, your mom's going to pass at one time or another. The old Hildegard, she's going to pass, and I'm going to pass, and we're going to be gone, and you guys are still living your lives. You guys you potentially will have children and those kinds of things, and those are all wonderful things. But memories, I don't know. I think about my father. I think about my aunt. Occasionally, I'll think about your grandmother, only because you have reflection points. I think about other people that have passed and stuff, and other friends, their parents have passed that I was connected to or close to. You think about it fondly. You don't think about it negatively or sad. So you guys go to the funeral or the cemetery and do all kinds of funky stuff and celebrating Day of the Dead and all that, whatever it is. Well,
that's also a Mexican tradition too.
That's just not, I can't remember. Like I said, I just don't do it. I just don't see the need for it, like I said, maybe it's that weird disconnection between religiously, I believe in heaven. I don't think about it. I don't know if there's a hell, but I don't know if there's a heaven either. But I think that there is a existence for us beyond where we are in our current state. It's pretty, out there, but I don't know, right?
And that kind of falls into the question that I had for you is, do you believe that there, and I know this is like a religious question and a social question, but do you believe that there is an afterlife? And if you are going to see Drati again, or Abuela Nancy, or your father again,
those are very tough. I mean, I always used to joke around a lot that when if there is a heaven, I'll be there. I'll be talking I'll be directly there with the big guy right next to him, because you know what? I don't know all the bullshit that people do and whatever. I make mistakes, but there'll be other people that are supposedly more pious or whatever, good people, but they're fucking bullshit. You'll be behind me, that's for damn sure, because I'm more honest about who I am as a person, right? So what was the question? The shows.
Do we believe that we're going to see? And I'll say from my
question, I don't know.
From my perspective, I think that is something that us as Christians, we really hold on to when it comes to death. We think about resurrection. We just had Easter, right? Yeah. Of course, I'm very emotional during Easter service, because they're talking about, in death comes light, right? Comes good things. There is a new world after death, a new life. And, it's tough when you carry so much mourning for a loved one. And when you've suffered death through the family, my partner, through his family, it can be a lot. But I think what holds us together as a religion is the fact that we might just one day see them again, and that's that hope that we hold on to.
Yeah,
I don't know.
I don't have an answer, because I just freaking don't know the answer to that. Right. So you have a hope. That something's more after life. And I think we were talking about this briefly before we actually started the podcast, that, with so much misery in the world, so much death in the world, you can be very, you can be very disconnected, right? Or whatever it is. And it's funny, there have been so much death in the world, and from all ages, children being murdered or killed, or whether it's, stillborn or whatever it is. And then there's the wars and the horror of war and all that kind of stuff, and you kind of can become very desensitized to everything. Is there something beyond this existence that we have in life? I think we're getting very deep and stuff, but I don't know. Death creates all kinds of deep emotions, like all loss does. It's kind of funny, I think I shared with you, and see if I can find it. I can't see without my glasses.
Put them on.
But there was a quote that I had read from a Jewish rabbi that there's nothing so whole than a broken heart. And, it's kind of fascinating that experience, that profound emotional pain when you lose somebody, whether it's not just death, but, a lost relationship, a failure of a marriage, whatever those things are. And it was a very interesting statement that I read. So I'll read it. There is nothing so whole as a broken heart, which is, you can use that, attribute that to, loss of a grandparent, a parent, or whatever, or any other, loss of that creates a pain in the heart and stuff.
I mean, I've read that that mourning reminds us that we once loved.
Yeah.
Right, and that's the whole point of everything.
Yeah. So it's tough.
Tough.
I just don't know, again, to answer the question, whether there is an afterlife. I hope there is. I hope I can sit next to my grandmother and talk to her about the weather, because we used to make fun of her because of her accent, and she would say certain things. It was like as kids, we would just bust up at that funny stuff, or my own mother, the things and I spend time with my mother at least 2 times a week.
Right.
I go visit her. I talk to her 3 or 4 times a week, a lot. Not because of anything other than just catching up at one thing or another. You just
like to be around her.
And there's nothing wrong with, there might be a week that doesn't go by that I don't talk to her. But generally I talk to my mother at minimum 1 or 2 times a week, right? It's a matter of catching up. It's no different than, you and I probably talk a few times a week. Your brother calls me 1 to 2 times a week. Sometimes more. And then obviously your younger sister, I'm talking to her all the time, right? I'm with her or we're talking, and so it's that continued connection to the relationships that we have. So my legacy is only to say that I hope I was a good father, and you guys look at me fondly when I'm dead and gone, right? And that's the goal. I mean, I don't know if it's the goal, but you don't want to do anything with your children to think that they think of anything less than you, less of you. So I don't know, kind of weird.
Gosh, I don't know. It's tough because you can't really. Obviously, it's our parents' first time here on this earth as well. So my mother struggling with my grandmother's death, it was her first time dealing with the death of a parent. So seeing her pain and feeling so much empathy for her, it was tough, right?
And there's a reality that your grandfather is pushing
93. He's going to be 93.
So within a certain time frame, God willing, he lives a hell of a lot longer. But there's a reality that you have to check in, and don't be so weirded that let's not talk about that. No, it's okay to talk about it.
It's just tough.
It's tough. It's a tough conversation.
And I'll say, I think of your 3 children, I think all of us struggle with death. I think it's hard for all of us, and maybe it's our age or our generation, or maybe just our affection for you and for mom and Victoria's mom, that it's not, we don't like it. And I've told grandma, like, I don't know what I'm going to do without you. I don't even want to think about it. And she's like, oh God, please don't cry. We're not doing that right now, girl.
Our perspective
she just says, you'll be strong. You're fine.
Yeah. Our perspective is, what? We lived our life.
And I'm like, you don't understand. I'm like, but you're the best, grandma. And she's just like, yeah, whatever. I'm all right.
You be the best. You be the best. This is kind of our framework is, my mother has always been, it will be a definite loss when my mother passes. And I'm not wishing that. Fuck no, we want 20 more years of her.
More than
that. But
it's
just that connection to all those wonderful conversations and memories and those kinds of things. And, we want, if I could impart 10% of what my mother imparted to you guys, or to me, to you guys, then I think I've done a good job.
For sure.
And I used to say that if I could just be as good as parents as my parents were, just 10% as good, then my kids will be fine, but so those are the kinds of things that you think about those things as a parent. When you don't have, it's kind of like when you're not a parent, you just don't connect the same levels. But when you become a parent, I was like, oh, I didn't know that. And I get it.
That's what they always say too.
Yeah. So, Yeah, death is certainly treated differently between families and generations and stuff like that. Honoring the memories of people that have passed and that have created positive components in your existence is important. I think there's nothing wrong with that.
And I think we're finding new ways to do it every day. Like we didn't. Obviously, Jacob knew that he had that Dr. Seuss book, that first edition Dr. Seuss book of his grandmother's. But, when we pulled it out of the box in his mom's house, we brought it home with us because, it's his book. And, I'm like, we should read it. And it's like, okay, it's just like, let's just see, what comes from the experience of interacting with our past elders, Yeah.
It's tough. Life, unfortunately, is finite, and you work through those transitions in life. And many people have come before us, and many people will come after us, and
will hopefully be better than us.
Yeah, I think I said that to my mother. I think on the phone today. I think she was. Yeah, I spoke to her twice today, in the morning and in the afternoon.
I spoke to her once,
and she was. I was telling her about something about living a good life so that your children should live their own good life, right? And not be dependent. I told her I don't want to be dependent on my children. Mm-hmm. They don't need to take care of me. I do the job to take care of myself, and whatever's left over, they can divvy it up,
Yeah.
But a lot of generations, maybe more in the Hispanic community, they have a certain expectation that you're supposed to take care of me.
Yes.
Yeah, and that's just not the mindset I've got.
Yeah, and it's most definitely exhausted my mom for sure.
Yeah,
that's been her life over the past more than I would say 25 years. Is taking care of her parents, and it's become a part of her daily routine, her identity, her marriage, everything, and it's very taxing on her.
In my case, I stay healthy. I actively try to stay healthy and do things that are correct, and And from a resource perspective, you do the right things so that you as an individual don't become a burden to your own children.
Right.
And the resources you have, you live them, you use them, and if there's anything left over, enjoy.
Yeah.
That's all there is to it. So every family is different. Every perspective is different. But it's tough. Death is just, it's part of our existence. And mourning is different for it. It is certainly an individual emotion
experience,
and you cannot criticize one person or another. They may be very callous in their approach. It's just how they deal with things. Mm-hmm. No one way is the right way.
Right.
So,
moral of the story: call your grandparents if they're still alive. Call your parents. That's right. Call your siblings.
Connect with family.
Try not to fight with your brother.
Try not to fight with siblings. Those kinds of things. Those are all good. Those are all good traits and stuff. So it's a little heartfelt, but that's how life is. We should be all good to. We should be good to each other. We should be good to family and siblings and all those things.
Right.
Yeah. And our neighbors.
Definitely.
Possible, So yeah, tough. This is good. It was soft. This was a soft conversation, but deep in the sense of the meaning behind it. So
yeah.
So I hope you guys enjoyed it, and at least can connect a little bit about what we're talking about. And I know everybody can because everyone's got that same experience. So
for sure,
we appreciate you guys listening in. And Life in the Bitter Truth. We're on we're on YouTube, and you can please like and subscribe, leave your comments, and all the other podcast platforms. We're on those as well. So we appreciate you, and please continue to tap in. So,
thanks, guys.
Thanks,
Dad.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.